It's me, John Jackson, and this is another episode of the Gentleman's Renaissance. We've got another gentleman's profile, Marcus Ferrell, or Ferrell if you want to be bougie, like the singer.
Yeah, that's right.
CEO of Restorative Roots, formerly senior advisor at Swing Left, chief of staff at Nuru Georgia Project, gained notoriety as the Black Outreach Director for Bernie Sanders' historical 2016 campaign, and he's managed and worked as the general consultant for progressive campaigns across the country at local, state, federal level. You know, he's an activist first, community mobilizer first. He mobilized folks against the Stand Your Ground law in Florida. He's been an activist and advocate for black men and spoke out against police violence. And he has been a facilitator for the Black Caucus Boot Camp. Born and raised in Tallahassee, Florida, FAMU alum and veteran of the U.S. Navy. Welcome, Marcus Farrell.
Hey, thank you, man. I appreciate it. I need to update my LinkedIn profile because I just want to say now I just sell weed. Like that just needs to be my profile needs to change from all that stuff right there to I sell weed legally, but yeah, I sell cannabis right now because there is no retirement in politics unless you are taking from somebody who needs it, right? So yeah, I left politics just to make sure that I had some, as Rahm Emanuel said, a person who I disagree with a ton. As Rahm Emanuel said, there's nothing wrong with going ahead and leaving politics to make your family secure, right? So I decided.
Why didn't he do that?
He did do that. He did. Like after he left, folks forget that after he left the administration, he spent about 5 years back on Wall Street. Now, does he even have a Wall Street background? No, but when you white like that and you have the president's blessings, a company can pick you up, and with his connections, he spent about 5 years making millions of dollars, and then he came back and ran for mayor of Chicago. So that guy is an ass, though, and he wouldn't have gotten.
I'm not a fan of him.
Yeah, that guy's an ass. Especially the stuff that went down with Laquan McDonald, 16 shots in the cover-up. I actually was the campaign manager against one of his opponents when they suppressed that information, by the way, right? So when if you remember when Laquan McDonald got shot 16 times, it was on Rahm's watch, and Rahm was running for re-election. So what he decided to do was suppress all the film footage and stuff like that during the re-election, because trust and believe, if I had my hands on that information, he wouldn't have got re-elected. But it is what it is.
Well, that's pretty good work. That's pretty impressive. You know, I'm a Florida resident now. Got a Florida driver's license. You know, I'm a resident of the free state of Florida.
That's right.
Ron DeSantis stamped. You know, you gotta kiss his statue before you enter the DMV.
That's right. That's right. That's right. And you gotta measure his boot heel.
Yes. or they don't let you in, and so I had to make sure I did all that. So, you know, I live in Miami, and I know a lot about South Florida from spending a lot of time in South Florida, but I don't know a lot about Tallahassee, and I know that's where you were born and raised. What does your hometown mean to you? Tell me about Tallahassee.
Tallahassee, I have a love and hate relationship with Tallahassee. One day, and I suggest a person who can explain it very well is T-Pain. If y'all go and watch his TikTok that he did about Tallahassee and the treatment of folks in Tallahassee and how they treated him since he got big and famous. And actually, I used to rap around T-Pain, and we grew up in the same kind of hip-hop scene when I was back when I was rapping. Tallahassee means a lot to me. It's where my grandparents are. It's where my daddy's buried. It's where my mama is right now. You know, my first girlfriend, you know. It is a city that is growing. And it's a city in Florida that has the second highest income to wealth debt to wealth ratio in Florida outside of Palm Beach County, right? So you have some of the poorest people in America on one side of town, and you have some of the richest people in the state of Florida if you consider the lobbyists and the business owners who have businesses in Florida who made residence in Tallahassee. And also you have the great University of Florida, A&M University, Tallahassee Community College, and of course Florida State. My love-hate relationship comes from a very simple place. You have to leave home to become successful from a city like Tallahassee. I believe, and I've lived in different cities across my life. I lived in Phoenix, Arizona. I've lived in Yokosuka, Japan. I've lived in Macon, Georgia. I've lived in Chicago, Illinois. I've lived in a lot of different cities. And Jacksonville, Florida. And what I found out is that you can find success in your hometown in different cities. If you live in Atlanta, you can find success as a black person. In comparison to Tallahassee, where it's a very big crabs in the bucket mentality because the resources are small. So I had to leave, and it's interesting because all the people who wouldn't give me a job, once they saw that I was working on Bernie Sanders' campaign and they saw me on MSNBC, all of a sudden, oh, I knew you when you was growing up. I'm so proud of you, boy. And it's like, nigga, stop capping. So yeah, I love that town. It's a beautiful city. Gorgeous canopy roads, oak trees all over the place, green lush fields, great weather, but also it's a bunch of hating ass niggas.
Well, I gotta say, I can't wait to visit. I love living in the state of Florida. It's beautiful. I love alligator watching, and there's enough alligators. There's more like I feel like there's more alligators than people. And
Yeah, the swamp, we call them swamp puppies. And the swamp puppies are real, right? And it's interesting because I'll never forget, I had a Ford Festiva when I was in high school, right? And in my yard was a 10-foot alligator that I did not see. So it was a stick shift, and I was just learning how to drive. So I put it in reverse, and my car wouldn't go backwards. So I get out the car, and I see a long green tail on the driver's side, and I was like, okay, well, I hope that's not what I think it is. So I drive forward and drive through the yard to get out, and I turn around and I see a 10-foot gator sitting there. And he tasted like chicken.
oh man, I be seeing them all the time in the canal in Miami. Just seeing them in the river, and I'm pretty sure I fed a injured duckling to it because it would better that than it rot on the concrete.
Yeah, you know what's interesting about Florida, John, is Florida is not Florida. Everybody wants to make Florida one place, but Florida is not Georgia is Georgia. You have elements of Thomasville and Atlanta, and you have elements of Atlanta and Thomasville. In comparison, or in Alabama, it's just Alabama from the rooter to the tutor, right? But in Florida, it's like when you're in North Florida, you are in Alabama. You're in Georgia. Our accents are different. When you're in Central Florida, you're in Puerto Rico. And when you're in South Florida, you're in Cuba and Haiti, right? Like, and they're so different. And even the black folks have different, like, slang terms. You've never seen a state where you almost have a certain kind of dialect in the South, and then you get up to Tallahassee, and they sound like they're from damn near Mississippi. So yeah, Florida's an interesting state, and I'm happy that you're in the state. You're gonna enjoy yourself in Miami, boy.
I love Miami to death, and Miami has a part of it that's black. There's a part of Miami that's black as fuck. It was black as Atlanta when it was founded. Black people built the city of Miami. And if you don't know Black Miami, then you don't know Miami.
That's right.
If you don't know Black Miami, then you don't know Miami. So that's why I really love it, because I embrace Black Miami. I go to Liberty City.
Yeah, Liberty City. Used to have the Poke and Bean projects down there.
I go to Overtown, you know.
And FAMU used to get all of their. 1978 FAMU won the first national FCS championship. They're the first team to ever won a FCS championship, right? And most of our players before Florida State and all these white schools started recruiting black players, FAMU used to beat they tails. And in the first FCS championship that year, we beat Miami. We beat the Hurricanes. Florida A&M. Now, will that happen now? No, because programs are different, and the kids want to go to white schools a little bit more. But back then, we used to get all of our kids from the Miami area, man. And there's a strong FAMU connection to every black celebrity from Florida, right? If you think about Rick Ross, if you think about Uncle Luke, if you think about Flo Rida, like they all have these connections to Florida A&M University. So I think like FAMU is the black glue of the state that holds it together. I keep talking about my school, but I love it.
That's awesome. That's awesome, and I'm just excited to be in your home state. I can see why you like it. Tell us about Restorative Roots and what inspired you to start that business.
Restorative Roots is a black-owned cannabis culture and a black-owned cannabis company. We are in the process of opening up. Now we're in the process of opening up 3 dispensaries in the city of Chicago. And I went from 1 and I sold 1 license, and now I'm opening up 3 more for the amount of money that I got for that license. What Restorative Roots is see, there's a very big problem in the legal cannabis industry right now, and that is that there is not black folks who own these dispensaries. Less than 1% of cannabis owners nationally are black. Less than 1%. So that means that we were probably somewhere around 60% of the people who went to jail for cannabis, but legal cannabis industry, we are less than 1%. So I decided 2 things. When I was in politics, and after I worked for Bernie Sanders, and after I worked for Alvin Brown, and after I worked for Stacey Abrams, and after I worked for all these different elected officials, whether they won their election or not, what I realized is that there's a serious black man hate in politics, right?
Misandry, yeah.
And for some strange reason, when you would get somebody elected or you help somebody with their campaign, what I noticed is that whatever the next thing that candidate did, whether that candidate was won the election and then could hire 50 people for their administration, or they didn't lose the election but started an organization, right? Over and over and over again, and I'm talking about for about 15 years of my life, the next step for a major candidate, when they had opportunities to give me a job, that I wouldn't have to go from campaign to campaign, but actually settle down and have one job and go to that job for 2 years and 3 years. I never got that opportunity. Not one time did I ever get offered an opportunity with a candidate that I worked in. Now, maybe that's because I'm a horrible person, or I did a horrible job, right?
I have something to say about that. They in the Democratic Party, they don't take care of the high performers. They take care of people who are no threat to their status and no threat really to their bullshit. Because I'm not gonna be humble here. If it wasn't for myself, my leadership of the DeKalb County Democrats, you would have had no Joe Biden win in Georgia. Let's just be real.
And therefore, you wouldn't have no Joe Biden.
And
right?
So the Democratic Party's elites in Georgia were not going out of their way to reward me with any staff positions, high staff position, any financial reward for what I've done. And they really just were like, well, we'll keep benefiting off your free labor, but we're not gonna really offer you anything good or incentivize you to stay around. And we'll downplay, everything. But I want to tell you something, and I won't release their names because I'm not trying to cause a huge frenzy. High-profile Republicans have tried to recruit me for their campaigns.
That's right.
And they have name-dropped the Democratic Party of Georgia and said, we see they don't value you, and that's why we want to bring you on.
Right.
And I'm like, a weaker man would have gone.
Right.
And so I said that this is a message to the Democratic Party. Stop undervaluing us, or some of those guys will go work for Trump and Ron DeSantis.
That's right.
Because they're going to show them the money and realize there's an opportunity to put Democrats on their backs.
Right. And I mean, to your point, right, and why I started this company, you got to think about it, right? Like when I was on these campaigns and when I wasn't getting the forever job afterwards, right, I would have to start all over again. Personally, it affected my personal life. I was married, and working on campaigns as your primary source of living instead of having a regular job adds stress to your household, right? And because of that, this is one of the reasons why I ended up getting a divorce. Of course, I was a hot mess at some points, and we just disagreed about some things. But when it comes down to it, having a forever job would have done that. Multiple people didn't hire me. So, I mean, besides the aspect of the sort of anti-black male thought process that was in politics, I had to do something else. And what I also realized was people listen to money more than listen to advice. Right? I am a top tier advisor, political advisor in America, and no one can take that away from me. I work for some of the biggest campaigns, and I can work for anybody in any role, from communications to data targeting. I can do all that stuff, right? But yet I'm not the person that the door is getting knocked down on. Why? Because I stand up straight and I prefer women, and I have dark skin. That's why, right? So how do I make an impact? How do I make an impact on politics? How do I make an impact so reparations is on the docket? How do I make an impact so the things that I care about, right? Like the rate of our sisters and our wives and our cousins, our women in our community not dying when they have a kid. How can I make an impact where we are actually talking about supporting black households staying together and not separating? How can I make a political impact by doing it? You need money, right? You need money and you need influence, right? Because money is the influence. So here, the funny part about it is, when I was working on campaigns, I would give some of the greatest advice, right? And it would go in one ear, maybe stay there for a little while, and come out the other. Every single time, I want to point this out. Every single time you see a Kamala Harris, or you see Joe Biden, or you see some presidential campaign say they're doing an HBCU tour. Guess what? That's my idea. I came up with that drunk as hell at a bar somewhere in Birmingham, right? Because I wanted to be able to, because I know that we were out of touch when it came down to things. And I'm gonna tell you something. When Bernie Sanders campaign, when I came up with the HBCU tour idea, they literally ignored it for 3 or 4 months. And then meanwhile, the Hillary Clinton campaign was going crazy. Like, why is this campaign even attempting to talk to black people, right? And what's the funny part about it is they wouldn't listen when I was on these campaigns and in these organizations, except NGP. Shout out to NSA UFOT. But when I made some money and I started donating, and I would say things like, you want my money? Before I put my money up, before I say a single word for you, before I give you a dime, I need to see reparations on your platform. If the word reparations ain't even on your website, I'm not donating a dime to you. And guess what? I had about 8 candidates last year in the last 2 cycles literally changed their website and put up. So because I gave them money, I give them $1,000, I give them $500, and all of a sudden they're talking about reparations. They're talking about anything you want when you put money in their pocket. So why did I start Restorative Roots? To be a straight black man and make some money without any problematic people telling me that I'm a problem for existing. That's why.
So, I understand you was in the Navy, and being a black man in the military, as you know, I'm a Marine Corps vet, is an interesting experience because you got cliques. The white boys, they in it for a different reason. A lot of them at least. They got this whole nationalist, patriotic thing. Black men, we're kind of. I heard if we sign up, we get this. Yeah, I'm good.
We want our benefits. We want our benefits.
I mean, I just got money. I'm getting money from a settlement now for hearing loss.
Lejeune?
No, it's the 3M earplugs.
Oh, okay, the earplug law. So
I shot off so many damn guns with those earplugs.
Yeah, and they didn't work worth shit.
They didn't work. So yeah, I'm just waiting for that check to hit. So.
And if anybody's watching this, if you were stationed at Camp Lejeune for a certain time period, you need to go look. They got some money waiting for you right now because of the water supply that was at Lejeune.
So yeah, what? Absolutely, I'm not old enough for that, but. If I was, I'd get that check. But what about your time in the Navy best prepared you for life?
Making my bed every morning. I know that sounds crazy, but like just the discipline, and I don't even make my bed now. But what I'll say is what prepared me most for life was the simple fact of doing one repetitive action over and over again until it became a habit. Because when I get involved into things now, like my work, I'm a gamer too, right? As everybody in here knows, I play 2K and PS5. But when it comes down to preparedness in life, it was two things. It was making my bed every single morning, and also gun safety. Because I was scared of guns before I went into the military. I was. And then I went into the military and got comfortable and then started understanding your Second Amendment rights. And I believe that as black men, black people, especially black women, that we should all be carrying as long as it's legal, right? Because I'd rather be judged by 12 than carried by 6. And these cops out here, they don't give a damn, right? I'm not advocating violence against anyone. I'm not advocating violence against other black folks, right? So those were the two things: the discipline that I needed to like get involved in the things that I wanted to get involved with and show some level of consistency, win, lose, or draw. I could have gotten messed up the night before, came back to the barracks at 5:45 a.m., know that revelry is at 6 o'clock, 6:30, whatever, hear that, and no matter what happens, I would literally get up and make my bed. And that would be the start of my day.
You know, I think it's sometimes hard to quantify what we get out of our service, but I think what I got out of mine is I can turn a fucked up situation into a pretty decent one, because we learn how to kind of assess what's in front of us and see, okay, well, here's our options, and then kind of make a decision and move forward. And I think those have put me in some of the best situations of my life. It seemed like it was really fucked up at first, and then all of a sudden things got significantly better.
You know, one more thing. I think we both have it. I know you, John, right? The military gives you better situational awareness than any other thing that you could possibly do in America, right? And it's something that I want my sisters and our black little girls to learn a lot better, right? Is to be situationally aware. Know your surroundings. Keep your head on the swivel, because this world is going to come at you from all angles, and you shouldn't have to go to the military. We're black. We don't have the same safeties that the white community has.
Damn right.
We have to protect ourselves, right? And that starts with just basic situational awareness. So don't be a doofus. Don't be floating around the world just like careless, right? Be situationally aware. I think that's another thing that I got.
Well, definitely. I've definitely experienced my fair share of situations where I was put to test, and that training came in very useful. So you're a very successful guy, Marcus, by
Thank you, man.
basically all metrics. I've known you to take lemons and make lemonade. And what advice? There's a lot of lost men out there. That liberals, progressives, we're not reaching. We're not reaching those guys. And there's economic anxiety. They don't feel like they have the ability to ever protect or provide because they're not doing well. What advice do you have to give to men out there searching for independence and financial freedom?
The advice I would give men who are looking for financial freedom is get you a plan and stick to it. And if it doesn't work, try again. And if it doesn't work, tweak it and try again. And if it doesn't work, tweak it and try again. And the moment you make $1, put a quarter away. And I learned that from my own personal mistakes. If you make a bag, take 25% of that bag and put it into something that's never going to lose value and becomes an asset. Buy more assets. Collect more assets, not more things that actually will go away. I fell a part of that myself, right? And then one day I said, you know what, let me buy a house. And then one day, I said, let me buy gold coins. Let me buy coins, right? Because instead of me going and buying a bag, which I've done, I bought Louis bags, I bought Louis clothes, I bought shoes, I got my rims. My rims are pretty, right, on my Jeep. But create more assets. Focus on your savings. Put your money into an insurance fund instead of a bank, right? Like some of the things that you see people talking about, actually do it, right? Start that business. Okay, listen, I know that a Birkin bag starts at $10,000, right? That starts at $10,000. I know that a used box truck also starts at $10,000. I know that in a box truck, you can get $1,000 a day. I know that if you do that for 10 days straight, you got $10,000 and you own a box truck, right? The advice I would give to men is very simple, right? Get you a plan, stick to it, save some money. The advice I would give to a party of people that want to actually get these men engaged is hire them. My advice to America is when Black America gets a cold, when Black America gets a flu, America gets a cold, Black America gets a flu. And these organizations have to start hiring us, right? But I'm going to tell you like this right here. Now let me keep it 1,000 because I no longer care anymore because I'm not in that industry. Black men in politics, leave it. Let them have it. I said it. Let them have it. Let them have politics. Let's cede it to them. I know that sounds crazy, but I want to cede politics to whoever wants us out of it, right? And I want us to put our energy into the one thing that never fails in America, and that's capitalism. We should always fight for our rights. But when it comes down to working in that environment, it's a losing situation because they fundamentally don't want you in it. I'm not going to keep fighting up a hill where people don't want me. If you don't want me at your party, ain't no reason for me to dress up. But here's the thing. Every party has a venue. Every party has a venue. And guess what about that venue that's interesting is? Someone owns it. Black men need to own the venue. Black men no longer need to work in the party. We need to think differently about how we approach this.
That's incredible. So how can people keep up with you? What's your website?
I don't even know if my website is up. MarcusFerrell.com, I think, maybe.
Restorative Roots.
And restorative.org, MarcusFerrell.com.
What are you on X, aka Twitter?
Marcus for America on X. Marcus for America on Instagram. I'll be launching a couple of things myself, podcast-wise, after I launch my dispensaries this summer. You can also DM me if you want a Restorative Roots t-shirt. If you go on some of these sites that I showed you, you'll find it. Look me up.
Hey, if he got my size, he got everybody's size.
Yeah. Hey, John is a model on my Instagram page for some of our stuff.
I'm a 2XL.
That's right. And that's it. And make sure everybody to everyone listening to this thing, make sure that you work hard, love hard, be good at it.
Hey, thanks. Thank you for being an inspiration to us all.
I appreciate it.